Hello everybody and welcome back to another ecosystem video. Today we've gone to a snowy wasteland and we're going to turn this flat land into a dinosaur ecosystem where all dinosaurs can rule and live happy. What I normally do with these things, if you guys enjoy, what I'll do is do a battle royale on this map later on. So if you want to see that, click like and subscribe. And without further delay, let's get into the video. Make sure you comment down below as well your favourite dinosaur. I started off by placing an arrival point, placing down luxury paths, 2 rows obviously. I then placed down a bias and control centre, and then a group of hotels off to the left. I then placed down an emergency shelter, and multiple restrooms, followed up by restaurants, a cafe, and a gift shop. And then I placed down paths connecting everything. That's enough for the people. Now time to work on the actual ecosystem. I then placed multiple hatcheries down, connected them all by path. I then started hatching my first dinosaurs. I then worked on building a mountain wall to block the actual civilization. I then worked on the first bit of the biome. It was going to be an icy lake with little tiny islands all around it. And I worked on this for quite a while. I then added a bit of terrain to the ground, making it sure it weren't all flat, giving it a bit of character. I then started working on a little forest area. I liked it because it gave the animals somewhere to hide and added a bit of plantation to the land. I also added patches of ground leaf in between the trees. And then some patches of ground fibre. And I did this along the top of the map as well, making sure there was plenty of places where the animals could eat. Even adding some tall fibre, make sure that the longer animals could also eat. I found out that tall leaf and ground leaf actually looked really nice, so I decided to make a bit of a ground where there was just loads of that about. I then started dotting rocks around to give the ground a bit more character. I then worked on a mountain bit in the top right. This mountain bit was going to be home to some apex predators. I had one in mind that I thought would look really good in this biome, so stay tuned to the end to find out which one that is. And this is the ecosystem so far. If you do enjoy this video, I'd like to let you know that what I normally do with these things is at the end, I'll do a battle royale. So if you want to see that, comment down below, battle royale please. Thank you. And without further ado, let's get into the video.
They do not make $500 ATVs anywhere, especially for adults. So hopefully this is fun.
I then added ground and tall towards the south, because I didn't want to get it anywhere near the fibre because it wouldn't match. But down here, it looked really nice. My next job was adding dots of water around to make sure that none of my dinosaurs, when moved in there, would dehydrate. There's going to be less water in the mountain because it didn't really go. Then spreaded out the tall fibre and ground fibre a little bit more. And then for this a little bit over here, I decided just to make the terrain uneven and leave it a bit of a valley. It was now time to release my first dinosaur. First one was going to be a Utahraptor, and it would live in this pond forest area over here. To make sure it didn't die, I had to add some prehistoric goats. I then worked on hatching some herbivores, starting off with a Tinsinteosaur. Is that Tinsinteo? Yeah, those things. And also Polocanthus. See, that's easy to say. Lot easier than our friend Tinsutintutatus. I also added an Asutoceratops. I then released my first ones through the actual gates, which were these little fellas. I didn't really know they were going to do much. Didn't even know if they'd get to the forest, but I thought I'd introduce them here because I couldn't be bothered to airlift them. The Ceratops, I decided to airlift into the jungle area because I thought they'd suit that area. They were also followed by the Tinsintutanus. That one. I'm just going to call it T. There we are. That'll be easier. The Struthiomimuses were also released through the gates because I wanted them to live in the valley area. In the valley I decided to add Isaac. Thank you for shutting up. In this little valley I decided to add some ground leaf and also ground fibre, making sure that all animals could live here. I then dotted around some more prehistoric goats. The Struthiomimuses were loving their new home. Plenty of food, quite a lot of water, and then a lovely spot to rest. The Utahraptors were also exploring their home. This one seemed to really like the lake. He was circling around it for quite a while. The Pseudoceratops, although he was on his own, was also enjoying his little area. But he was very lonely, so he didn't have much energy. The Utahraptors formed two different packs because they couldn't seem to locate each other. And they were supposed to be one of the smartest creatures in the world. Wow, don't seem very smart. The Podocanthus were loving their new home. This guy even had a bit of a jug on. This guy just decided he wanted to be one with the tree. I mean, each to their own. I started the incubation process on my first apex predator, and then decided to work on what other carnivores I'd wanted in the area. I then realised some of the Podocanthus, whatever you call them, were starting to dehydrate, so I added little dots of water in the valley to make sure they wouldn't, well, die at first. I did the same pretty much all around the map, just making sure that no matter where the dinosaurs were, they wouldn't die of dehydration. I then released my first carnivore into the valley. It was a Pyroraptor. These guys would roam the valley. They should be alright as long as they had goat feeders and wouldn't hurt the other animals. Because prehistoric goat is apparently the most nice food you can eat. Cabot, Finch, can you please not cut me off like that again? That is very rude. I was trying to just... Shut up. Okay.
And my life insurance would be just that little bit cheaper.
Shut up. Oh, so rude, these people. Anyway, let's go back to play some more prehistoric goats. I then started the transport of the apex predator. I also decided to release Albertosauruses into the valley. I thought they'd go with the Pyroraptors quite nice, and I thought it'd be nice to have them in the valley as well. Except one of them seems to be Jesus and can fly. I mean, pretty cool, right? With the Majungasauruses, I decided to transport them over to where the Utahraptors were. The Albertosauruses were really loving their new home. This guy loved the trees the most. The Pyroraptors were enjoying killing goats. This one loved hunting, and was his favourite thing to do. Whilst this Tibu Parasaur was descending from the heavens, his friend was already exploring the land. A group of Struthiominuses decided to explore a bit and head into the icy flats, and they seemed to be loving it. Two of them even started playing. The Utahraptors all eventually reunited as one big happy family. Struthiomimus decided just to wander in the deep woods for a bit, then turned around realising there's absolutely nothing here. The Majungasauruses arrived at their new lake, and they were really enjoying it. These two were getting along very well as well. I then worked on adding some sauropods. My selection was the Dreadnoughtus. I decided to add some more herbivores. My choices were Styracosaurus and Ankylosaurus. The Styracosaurus would live in the valley. The Ankylosaurus had to be airlifted to the snowy mountains. The first apex predator was officially in our park, and it was none other than, if I can find it, the Tarbosaurus. Tarbosaurus is a T-Rex-like creature. Massive, big old legs, and a jaw that could crunch any bones. Since I had apex predators now, more prehistoric goats had to be added. The first herbivore was added into the snowy mountains, and it was none other than the Ankylosaur, a heavy armoured dinosaur, normally called a tank. A very slow tank. But this one seemed to be speedy. Look at him go, boy. The Tarbosaurus seemed to have separated, one in the icy lakes, and one remained in the snowy mountains. And this one seemed to like scaring the locals. Now time to release our first sauropod, the Dreadnoughtus. Massive creature, but a beautiful one, and majestic. I really love this dinosaur, and I'm glad to have added it to the park. I then worked on adding the last few dinosaurs. I then released our second apex predator. The first one the valley has ever seen. None other than Rexy. Well, Rexy and Rexietta. Wait, Rexy's a girl actually, yeah. Both had the Dominion skin on to acclimatise to the cold weather. I then also added one of the strongest herbivores. Actually, it's an omnivore, Gigantoraptor. And one is Jesus again and it can fly up in the air. Why does this keep happening? All three dinosaurs were separated due to this one Tarbosaur. He scared them all off and they all went in 3 directions just to save their own life. This one was thirsty, but between it and the water was a Tarbosaur. He had to make sure he was quick and unseen, otherwise his trip to the watering hole could be over quick. Luckily for him, the Tarbosaurus was looking the complete other way, which gave him just enough time to drink. These Tarbosaurs had it easy for now, but it wouldn't stay like that for long. Dinosaurs were loving the valley. One was down here, the other one was in the background. But they had plenty of food and a load of free space. The Gigantoraptors were also loving it, all staying close together, sharing the same land. One was slightly slower than the rest, and got sort of lost from the group. This Pyroraptor was lonely. He couldn't find the rest of his friends, so he had to just make do on his own. The Styracosaurus were spread out, probably due to the T-Rexes scaring them off. That and the Pyroraptors. T-Rexes was heading in. One of the T-Rexes were heading into the dense jungle. The other one decided to nap next to the icy flats. Remember how they said the Tarbosaurs couldn't rule the snowy mountains forever? Well, here's why. The Giga. One of the most dangerous predators that ever walked the earth. It's massive, and in the actual Jurassic World things, has killed a Rex before. But look at that cute little face. Look at it. Oh, I just went inside of him. The other Giga seemed to be very lazy and couldn't get off his backside. Same with one of the Tarbosaurs. Right, well, that was all of the dinosaurs released, apart from one of the parasaurs that was again transported. And this is the finished product of the ecosystem biome. If you do want to see a battle royale on this map, let me know. But let me just do a little fly around showing you what we've got. So this is the valley. You got Gigantoraptors, Styracosaurus, Dreadnoughtuses, Pyroraptors, and many more of the dinosaurs that I can't name. Here is the sky view of it. Loads of dinosaurs. You had the T-Rexes down here. They ventured over to the icy flats, but they still stay near the valley. Over here is where you have the Nasutoceratopses, which have actually migrated to the Utahraptors territory. So if you did do a battle royale, there'd be some interesting fights here. It was also shared with Majungasauruses, of course, but they haven't really done much. Then this is the sky view of the snowy mountains. In between the battle royale, I may add some more stuff over here, but that's the basics. This is what it looks like, the actual ground. The icy flats has no home to any creatures. Main reason being it's so big that nothing could really live here. But some creatures have adventured out to it. So I hope you all enjoyed this. It's been a ton of fun to film you guys. And I actually love doing these ecosystem videos. So subscribe and I'll see you all next time. It's a sign title, signing off.